Hello and welcome. This is the first video in a series about taking PDFs and making them more interactive in Google Slides. In this first episode, we're going to look at how to take a PDF and make it the slide background. There are 6 objectives for learning this in today's video. Let's take a look. First, you will want to find the PDF that you want to use, whether that comes from curriculum materials, from the web, or from your Google Drive, and then we'll need to take a screenshot. Next, we are going to open Google Slides and change the page setup to match the dimensions of the document. Third, we are going to add the screenshot of the PDF as the background to our slide. Then, we are going to look at how students will be able to annotate that PDF with text, highlights, and images. Fifth, we will look at how to share this PDF in Google Slides with students using Google Classroom. Finally, we will look at what the kids see when they open the slides in Google Classroom. So the first thing that we'll want to do is make sure and locate the PDF that we want to work with. So whether you're finding this on a website, whether you're finding this from some curriculum materials, or whether you're finding this in your Google Drive, that's the first thing that we have to do. So first thing I'll do is I'm going to go find one in my Drive. And so I went to my recents and I have a PDF here that I want to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and open that. And what we have to do first is we want to take a screenshot of this. And so to take a screenshot essentially means to take a picture of this document. It has to be in a picture format to be able to put into the background of a slide. So on your Chromebooks, it's Control-Shift, and there's a button in the very top middle that looks like 3 boxes on top of each other. That will allow you to take a screenshot of just this image. So I'm going to go ahead and take a screenshot of this entire page. So once I have done that, I'm going to have access to that. It's going to save that to your computer. You'll have to then upload that either back into the slides or into Google Drive. I suggest doing it in Drive, so I'm going to come back over here and do that just to show you that process. I go to New in Drive, go to File, Upload, and then when you go to your desktop on your Chromebook, you'll go to your downloads, and then that will be there as a screenshot. So I'm going to go ahead and click Open, and that will upload that image directly into my Google Drive so that I can use that when I go to the next step. Next step is we're going to open our Google Slides and we're going to set that to the dimensions that we need for this particular document. So I'm going to go over to Google Drive. I'm going to click New and go to Slides. And so I'm going to create a new one here, blank presentation. And so when this opens, one thing that you can do in Google Slides is I can change the page setup to match whatever it is that I want the dimensions to be. So as this page loads, what I'm going to do is come up here under File, and I am going to go all the way almost to the bottom to Page Setup. And what I can do in Page Setup is I can actually customize the size of each page or each slide in my slide. So the default is 16 by 9, but I can come in here and make this custom, and then I would change this to the size of a piece of paper, for instance. So 8.5 by 11, it's already in inches, and I click Apply. So now that I have the Google slide set to the dimensions that I want, then in the next step, we'll look at how do I make the image of my PDF the background to the slide. All right, so we have the slides set up to the appropriate dimensions for a sheet of paper. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and delete everything from this background. So I just did Control-A on my computer and click Delete, make that a blank slate to start. So what we want to do now is add this into the background of this slide. So right up here on the toolbar, you can see one of the options I have is Change Background. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. Now, this is where you would change the background of a slide to a different color, but one thing we can do is choose an image. So I'm going to go ahead and choose an image. I have this saved in my Google Drive, so I'll come right over here to Google Drive. I know that it's in my recents because I just did it. So I can either search for this if it has a particular title, or I know that it's in my recents because I just took the screenshot of this recently. So I'm going to go ahead and select the image that I want, and I'm going to click Insert, and then I'm going to click Done. And so what you will see is this image is now the background of this slide, meaning that if I come in here, I cannot select any of this, I can't change the text, I can't move the image, I can't delete it. It has now become the background to this particular slide. So everything that I would want to do now would be on top of on top of this image that's in the background. So now that I have the image there, we can look at the next part, which is how am I going to have kids interact with this, whether that means typing on top of the page or highlighting some pieces of text. Now that we have the PDF in the background of these slides, we want to look at being able to do a couple of things on these PDFs for students. So one thing we will do is look at how to create a text box so that students can own this and put in a text box to type some responses. The second will be how to highlight some material from a piece of text, and then also how to write on here. The writing part will be much easier if they have touchscreen devices, but they can do it without that as well. So the first thing that we'll look at is how to add a text box. So as a student, I come in here and I see this question and I want to add a text box. I come right up here to my toolbar, I click the text box option, and I can simply click, or if I click and drag a box here, it just creates a space there where I can now type. So I can go ahead and type in the answer to this, right? So type my answer here, and that text box will stay. Now, these text boxes are movable. Students will be able to delete these. These are not in the background, right? So they can go ahead and do that. If I look at this second little piece that I have here, one thing we might want them to do is interact with this in a way where they can kind of highlight some material. So while there isn't a highlighter tool that's going to work perfectly in slides for this, one thing that we can do is just create a shape. And so have them create a shape, have a rectangle, and then essentially draw a rectangle around the part that they want to highlight. And so the first time that we do this, if we're not setting this up for students, and I'll show you a way in just a second, but if students are doing all of this, they then just have to change the color. And when they do that, they come into the color on the toolbar, a little paint can, they choose the color. If they go to custom, we can also then kind of make it so that it's see-through, right? So we slide that down a little bit. So now that's highlighted in yellow and I can see what's behind there. Once they've done this once, they can simply copy and paste these. So Control-C and Control-V, or right-click on it, whatever works for you. But we can have them select that and just copy and paste, and then take that and highlight another piece of this. If I need to make it bigger or smaller, I can grab the little handles and move those around. Now, if you want to have that set up for students, you could have one of these boxes created already and just have them move it to wherever it needs to go. And then again, they simply copy and paste to create a new one and highlight whatever material it is that they need to highlight. On this one again, if I wanted to add text, I come up to my text box, I come down under here, what color is a newborn panda? I type in my box and I can type in pink. Or I can type in a newborn panda is pink. And then that text will be there. The third option that we would look at is to be able to write or draw on this a little bit. So up again on my toolbar, there's a line tool, and one of the options for the line tool is scribble. And so it's not easy with the trackpad or trying to have the dexterity to do this, but you could certainly kind of come in here and create some things where they would draw. Now, if we were having them draw, I would use another tool, and that would be Jamboard, and that's for another day, but just wanted to show that option here. So we've looked at, we can add text boxes, we can highlight some material, we can do a little bit of scribbling or drawing on this. The last thing that I want to show you is the opportunity to, if kids were using a piece of paper for some of this, or like these math problems. If I had a piece of paper that I wanted to do and have them do the work and then show it in here, I could have them kind of come up to do this on paper and then come up in their slide to insert an image and then simply use the camera on their device. And so when they use the camera on their device, it's going to use the camera so I could hold up the piece of paper and take the image and then click insert, and then that piece of paper can be put in here and resized also, so they could use an actual piece of paper and submit that as a digital piece of work. So for math especially, sometimes it's nice to be able to see that work and to be able to write it out on paper. So this would be a way to have them do that. Now that we have our Google Slides created with a PDF in the background, we want to be able to share this with students. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and head over to Google Classroom, which is going to be the place where you will share this with your students. I'll go to the classwork tab at the top, and we're going to create a new assignment. Now, if we want every student to have a copy of this, we need to make sure that we do it as an assignment and not as a quiz assignment, a question of material, or an announcement. By doing it as an assignment, it gives us the option of creating a copy for each student. We will not have that option if we do it any other way. So I'm going to go ahead and click assignment. I'm going to give it a title. So PDF to slides practice. And then I'm going to come down and I'm going to add that Google slide show from Drive. So I click add and go to Google Drive. This will be in my recent files. I was just working on it. If you don't have it in your recent files, you can do a search for it. But I know that it's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and click insert. And what you'll see is that I have an option to the right of this now that I've added it to either have students can view this file, students can edit this file, or to make a copy for each student. And I want to make a copy for each student here so they all have their own copy to interact with. I have to make sure and do this the first time that I create the assignment. I can't go back and edit this later, so it's a very important step to follow. So I'll say make a copy for each student. I could put some instructions in Google Classroom for students. I'm not going to do that here. On the right-hand side, I can make sure that this is going to the appropriate class or to the appropriate classroom. I can change the number of points, give it a due date, and add it to a topic within my Google Classroom. So once I have all of that set, then I'll go ahead and click Assign. This will go ahead and automatically create a copy for every student that I have in this Google Classroom for them to interact with. In the next segment, what we'll look at is what students see when they open this in Google Classroom, how they interact with this on their end, and how they return it to you to see. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like from the student perspective. So I have logged in as a student and I've gone to my Google Classroom homepage, and I'm going to click into this practice class that I'm using today. So as the student, I come in, I see that new assignment is posted on the stream. I can also go to my classwork page and I can see that PDF to slides practice assignment that we created. So I can go ahead and open that assignment. And when I open it, it is opening my individual copy. And I can tell because it will have my name right before the title of the document. So in this case, the name of this student is Practice Student. So I can come in here now as a student and I can add text boxes and I can add some text. I can take on this one as the teacher. I had already created the little highlighter, so I can come in here and copy and paste that and highlight whatever I need to highlight. I can go ahead and insert. If I did some of this math work, I can go to insert from the camera and utilize the camera on my device to take a picture of that and add that to my assignment. And then when I'm done, when I've completed the work as a student, I go back over to Classroom, and when I click View Assignment, I click Turn In. And so it will say this one attachment is being turned in. I could say, yep, turn that in. So as a student, I've completed that work, I've turned it in. This now says Unsubmit. Now if I go back over and look at this from the teacher perspective, so I'll go over and click on my PDF to slides practice. I can see that one of those has been turned in. So when I click on that, it will take me to that one that's been turned in. I can open it from the Google Classroom page. It will open up that student's assignment. I can see what they've done. I can give them a grade. I can add a private comment back to that student on the work that they have completed, and then I can return it to them at the end. So that's what it looks like from the student perspective, and then also for the teacher once the student has turned it in. All right, that's it for episode number 1. In the next episode, we'll look at how to take a PDF and not just make it the background to a slide, but actually edit the slide master and provide opportunities for kids to interact with it automatically. So, hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you soon.